let f of x equal 1 over x minus 2 and g of x equal the square root of x. We would like to find each of these combined functions and state their domains. So for the first one, f plus g. F plus g, by definition, is f of x plus g of x. And so we just need to add those two functions, 1 over x minus 2 plus the square root of x. Now, we need the intersection of the two domains of these functions. So let's go ahead and state those over here so that we have them. So for f, our domain is we can't divide by 0, and so x cannot equal 2. And so the domain for f is everything except for 2. I'll write that in interval notation: negative infinity to 2, and 2 to infinity. Let me go and fix that. Okay, so there's the domain of f, and the domain of g. We have the square root of x, and we know we can't take the square roots of negatives. And so this domain is from 0 to infinity. So looking for the intersection of these, we're just looking for the overlap. I'm going to go ahead and draw that because I think it's easiest to see. So we take a little number line, and the domain of f, I'll do that in red, and we just have a hole at 2 essentially. And so here at 2, okay, this is the domain of f. And then for g, we have from 0, everything from there to infinity. Okay, and this is the domain of g. And so looking for the intersection, we're just looking at the overlap of these two. And so that domain is going to be, and we don't need the equals there, the domain is, we'll start at 0 because that's where our overlap starts, and we go up to 2, but then we can't equal 2, but then from there we can go from 2 to infinity. So there's the domain of our sum. That's the intersection of these two domains. Now for f minus g, it's nearly identical. We subtract our two functions, f of x minus g of x, and so we just get 1 over x minus 2, minus the square root of x. And the domain for that, of course, is the same. Okay, the domains for the sum, difference, and product are all the same. So that's 0 to 2, union 2 to infinity. For our f times g, again, there's nothing really special here. We just multiply f of x times g of x. And so we have 1 over x minus 2 times the square root of x. And we can write that as a single fraction if we want. Square root of x over x minus 2. But again, our domain, there's nothing special about this. It just stays the same, intersection of those two. So 0 to 2 and 2 to infinity. All right, and finally, f over g. This is where it changes just a tiny bit. We got f over g of x. This is f of x over g of x. And so we just divide these. So f of x is 1 over x minus 2. We divide that by the square root of x. And I don't like fractions within fractions, so I'm going to go ahead and combine this into a single fraction. And that's just 1 over the square root of x times x minus 2. Now for the domain of this, there's only one extra condition that we need to take into account, and that's that we're not allowed to include any value of x that makes g of x equal to 0. And of course the square root of 0 is 0, and so x can now not be equal to 0 either. And so for our domain, we're going to have 0 to 2, but we don't include the 0. And then continue on with our 2.